Israel's war on Hamas is having repercussions outside of the region. Demonstrators in many countries have held both pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian rallies. Here in Germany, public opinion is also shaped by the country's historic responsibility for the Holocaust. A senior political leader recently posted a speech condemning anti-Semitism. But surveys show that people's views on the conflict are in fact complex.
The war between Israel and Hamas has touched many lives, not just in the Middle East, but, for instance, in Germany too. Many feel it's a conflict with no end. The latest Infratest dimap poll reveals almost 3/4 of Germans say they are concerned about the flare-up in hostilities since the terror attacks by Hamas on the 7th of October. Many of them say they feel fear about what might happen next. Of course I'm scared. I'm afraid of anything that spreads hate. Yes, with this conflict that we have now, the Middle East, Israel, I hope they stop on both sides. You get really scared. Well, I think I've never been as afraid of the future as I am now also with Ukraine and with Israel. Germany has seen demonstrations on both sides. Large crowds determined to show solidarity with Israel and awareness of Germany's historic responsibility towards Jews, but also protests in support of the Palestinians, sometimes peacefully drawing attention to the plight of civilians in Gaza, sometimes angrier gatherings with anti-Semitic chants and slogans. According to police, there's been a surge in the number of anti-Semitic incidents in recent weeks, including Molotov cocktails thrown at a Jewish centre and the Star of David daubed on Jewish homes. But the Infratest dimap survey shows only just over half of people in Germany acknowledge this rise in anti-Semitic hatred. More than a third said they did not recognise the problem. I'm afraid there will be attacks. I'm afraid the mood will turn to the right. I'm afraid that something will happen to Jews. No, I'm not afraid. I think here in Germany it will be kept under control. I think the problem has always existed and it's breaking out now. There's an opportunity for people to show it, and they obviously feel empowered by global trends and social media and everything they see on the internet. Chancellor Scholz is among a string of politicians who've spoken out against anti-Semitism. On Tuesday, Interior Minister Nancy Faeser moved to ban groups linked to Hamas in Germany. Such actions may help to keep the peace on the streets of Berlin and other cities, but the atmosphere of fear and division will not be easy to dispel.
I want to bring in DW political correspondent Hans Brandt now. Hans, the German government has made a point of stressing Germany's historic responsibility to stand up for Israel. But opinions among the German public aren't quite as clear-cut, are they?
Yes, indeed. It was in a spectacular video, or a video that has been viewed millions of times since it was published just recently. The German Minister of Economic Affairs, a member of the Green Party, once again stressed that support that Germany has for Israel. But if you look at this poll, it's actually fairly balanced. The poll reflects some criticism of Israel, quite a lot of criticism as far as attacks are concerned that cause civilian injuries in Gaza. And at the same time, there is a severe criticism of Hamas, of the fact that, 3/4 of Germans make Hamas responsible, hold Hamas responsible for the chaos, the war, the injuries, the deaths that are taking place at the moment. So there is criticism both of Israel and of the Palestinian side. And I think the kind of unwavering support for Israel is not quite as widespread, that the government stresses is not quite as widespread in the German population.
It's interesting, Hans. The poll also shows that while 2/3 say they're worried about Israeli civilians, an even greater number, 72%, say they're worried about the Palestinians.
Yes, indeed. This is part of that phenomenon we are talking about, that there is a tendency that the Palestinian side has more sympathy amongst the German population. We must emphasize here that the poll was taken amongst German voters, German citizens, and there are about 10 to 12 million foreigners living in Germany who are also obviously affected by the situation and also participate in demonstrations and so on. And I think one can say that amongst those non-Germans living here, many of whom are from the Middle East, the sympathy for the Arab side, for the Palestinian side, is probably larger as well. So I think in general one can say that Israel's stand in the German public, in the public of people living in Germany, is a difficult one.
Hans, as we heard in the report preceding you, the recent weeks have seen a spike in anti-Semitic incidents across the country. But German intelligence agencies had been warning of this worrying trend even before the war. What might be behind this surge?
Well, there is certainly a surge that is connected to pro-Palestinian demonstrations that have been taking place, or many that have been prohibited, especially here in Berlin, the German capital, because the authorities feel that these would lead or could lead to anti-Semitic calls for violence, to calls to destroy Israel, these kinds of things. And so they have been prohibited. And as we saw in that report, there were several incidents involving Jewish institutions, both here in Berlin and elsewhere in Germany. And these are clearly connected to the rising tensions caused by the conflict in the Middle East, by the war between Israel and Hamas. But it has also to be said that there is a constancy amongst anti-Semitic, about constancy of anti-Semitic feelings in Germany, coming mainly from the far right in this country. That is something that authorities have always warned about, that in the past most of these anti-Semitic incidents have been committed by extremists on the right of the political spectrum. And that's something that has probably gone, sort of merged into the background at the moment against the background of this current conflict, but it's something that's always been there in German society.
And we'll have to end it there. Our thanks to political correspondent Hans Brandt.